Welcome back to Sheet Metal is Fun. Today we're going to take our funnel one step farther and we're going to add a collar to each end. There's the 6-inch end. Here's the 4-inch end. We're going to add a collar on both ends and turn it into a transition. I think you're going to like this one. Come on inside. Welcome back to the second half, or part 2, as we're going to call it, of adding collars to a round transition. We're going to finish it up tonight, and I think there's a couple of surprises in there. I think you guys are going to be glad you came by. Let's get back to it. All right, so we've shown you how to use a machine to flare out the collar, turning machine with a foot pedal off a sewing machine. Of course, we put the gearbox on it. It came with a handle, with a crank handle. So now you know how to turn a flare on a collar with the machine. And we also showed you how to do it with a block of wood and any kind of bench. The secret here is to go around a lot of times. If the first strike of the hammer, you try to bend too much, as long as your collar stays round, you know you're doing the right thing. If you try to do it too much, this will turn into a teardrop, and then you're never going to get back to square one. So that gives you a chance to see how well. We already know we could finish that up with some rivets like we did this one. So now let's go to the 6-inch collar that's going to go on the bottom of our transition. We put this piece of scrap in here so it didn't smash the Pittsburgh as much, and we're just going to pull it out. If it gets stuck, we're going to keep pulling, and we'll use the vice grip. Don't get yourself in a place where if you find yourself pulling really hard on something, you're doing it the wrong way. There's a lot of sharp edges here, and we want to make sure that we minimize the risk of developing a leak. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're going to use the hammer. Let's cut off the part that we've already got. What if that's the part that tried to reach out and grab us? We don't want that. So we don't need that. So we put that in there to leave this little gap. See that little space that we created with that piece of scrap metal? Now, there's our 1/2-inch line. Now we know where this is going to go. Let's go back to the vice grip. And let's put a vice grip on both ends. All right. There's our 1/2-inch lap. Let's put a rivet in it. Now this is a rivet that we may have to, if the fitting gives us very much trouble, we may have to drill that rivet back out. But we already know that going in. May. Here we go. Okay, so when we're working with sheet metal, out of the two things, either stretching or shrinking, shrinking is the most difficult. You saw us stretch this over a board. We stretched this with the machine. And now what we have is we have our collar made to the dimension that we need, 6-inch. And I want you to see, that's going to be kind of hard to see. When we formed the hand Pittsburgh, we created a small shoulder, a small recess right here. I'm hoping you can get in there and see that recess. We have this little void here because that's where we put that piece of scrap, trying to maintain as much shoulder here as we can. So what's going to happen is our cone, the base of our cone, come on over here and get really close, is we're going to place our cone into that void. I want that to be a little tighter. We talked earlier about these rivets. Let's take this one out. When you drill them out, sometimes you got to wiggle the drill around. All right, now that we've drilled that out, we talked earlier about making minor adjustments. We're going to have to make a minor adjustment because I want this to be a pretty tight fit. So looking at it, I want to go as far open as I can. Then we're going to re-drill that rivet. Put our new rivet back in. Since I've made an adjustment, I want to put one little small spot weld on it, just to make sure it doesn't try to go back. All right, let's go back to our assembly. Okay. So when we made the top collar, we stretched. Stretching is easier than shrinking. So what we're going to do next is we're going to tap this tail, this Pittsburgh, over, and we're going to be shrinking it. So let's do that. I think we can go around here first. I'm going to go around it a little bit at a time. Because what we're doing here is we're actually shrinking. Little bit at a time. That's the secret. This material is 26 gauge galvanized, and since we're dealing with such thin metal, it's better to use a small hammer and make light strikes. Right around the seam, I need a little bit more extra, little bit of help. So sometimes small strikes with a light hammer is just what you're looking for. Now, we're going to drop our cone into that recess, and we're going to continue to bend it over. Now, I'm actually trying to fold this over to make it follow the taper of the side of the transition. So I'm actually striking downward. Just going to keep working our way around, bending it a little bit at a time. Because we're shrinking the metal, and the metal doesn't like shrinking. Stretching, no problem. I'm going to put one more rivet in that Pittsburgh seam to pull it in a little bit. This is our hand Pittsburgh, so it's got a little bit of slack in it. We're going to go through all 4 thicknesses. Well, 3 in this case. All right. Okay. All right. I don't think I like this pop riveter anymore. Let's go ahead and fix that mandrel. I don't want to come back to it because we have left ourselves with something dangerous. Now, the last time we did this, I wiggled it a little bit, and that was a lot better. Okay. So what I did is I clamped onto the broken mandrel, and I wiggled it, but I'm also pushing. But I'm safe to push because I have my vice grip in my hand. So that was actually better. We tried driving the mandrel out before, but twisting it was way better. Another broken mandrel. All right. Told you there's going to be warts and all. All right, here we go. Notice the angle of the strike on the hammer, not in, trying to go hit it down. Trying to fold that in just a little bit, make it nice and tight. There we have it. So we used a Pittsburgh seam to join the big end. Let's take a look inside. I don't know how close I can get. Is that close enough you can see it? So that's the shoulder from the Pittsburgh. That's the one we shoved that raw piece of metal into to create that shoulder. And then on the outside, you can see where we peened it over, and that's what captured the cone into the collar. In the top, we flared out and riveted. Look at that. So that is a 6-to-4 transition. So we've learned how to attach a collar to the base of a cone, and we've also learned how to attach a collar to the top of a cone. And I have a couple more things that I want to do, but I think what we're going to do is save that for next time. I mean, you've already saw me take 2 broken rivets out. So we've got a Pittsburgh, hand Pittsburgh to a collar. Now, if you were working in a commercial shop like ours, you wouldn't do this. You would not do this. You would do this one. This is a good, so what we would do here is we'd flare this out and we would spot weld this connection. What we would do on the bottom is we would flare the cone down and then we would spot weld that, or we would run an easy edge, which is another seam that it requires a lot of hand skill. And really what I want to do here on sheet metal is fun, is I want to make it fun. I want to make sure that you can accomplish everything that we make on these lessons. I want you to be able to do it. I don't want you to take on anything that's frustrating or requires years of skill and talent, and then you end up with a project that's incomplete. So I want you to be able to take on every project, complete it, get that sense of accomplishment, and move on, watch the next lesson, and make whatever we make next time. So we did it. Here's what we were holding at our intro. Here's what we're holding now. And this is a way that you can attach a collar to a cone, and you can do it at home. We made the Pittsburgh by hand. We could have used this collar, and then that would have easily shown this made by hand. But I just want to show you as often as I can at least 2 ways to do something. So here's the 2 ways to do the top. I didn't show you the other way to do the bottom, but it would be similar to this. And this is a Pittsburgh collar, which in over 40 years of doing this, I've never seen anybody do this. And this was an idea that I thought would make this approachable and make this project something that you could accomplish at home. And look at that. What a great looking funnel that is. If it just didn't have writing all over it, that thing would be gorgeous. All right, so I think that's it. I think we've got another one in the box. In a couple weeks, my wife and I are going to drive the car 500 miles, and we're going to be at a drag race. We're going to a drag strip 500 miles away. So we're putting on some some drag radials on the back. And if you're wondering why is it up on the rack and why are the wheels off, we're just getting everything the once over. We're going to drive 5 miles. We're going to burn rubber. We're going to shift gears, and we're going to have a good time. Maybe we'll shoot that for you guys and maybe show you something a little different on here. But in the meantime, there it is. Transition, big collar, little collar. Sheet metal is fun. Am I right? Thanks for coming by, guys. I'll see you on the next one.